Javier Baez can't seem to stop himself from swinging. There seems to be no pitch he won't offer at. If you're a fan of bottom feeders, you'll enjoy trolling the depths for some of Baez's current stats, such as his expected WOBA of 270 that ranks in the bottom 7% of MLB, which is about the same as his batting run value of -8. Along with Andrew Benintendi and Randy Arozarena, Baez ranks among the worst everyday players in the bigs for 2024 so far, according to both those and several other metrics. Those words would have seemed impossible to utter in 2018, when Baez finished second in the race for NL MVP. He led the league in RBIs with 111, to go on with 34 homers and a tidy .290 batting average. Instead of sitting at the bottom for batting run value, Baez was in the 73rd percentile, along with truly elite defense and some impressive base running. Yogi Berra had lots of great advice on everything, but on hitting, he was succinct. Swing at the strikes. Like many Yogiisms, this one seems almost stupid, until you consider the deeper ramifications of the quote. That contains wisdom that eludes loads of baseball players around the world, including Baez. Swing at the strikes means get your strike zone organized, and don't give in to the pitcher who wants you to swing at their pitch. An elevated four-seamer that ends up as a pop-up, a diving changeup that becomes a double play, or a darting slider that births a swing and a miss. None are strikes, or at least strikes you want to hit, and all become outs. It's often said that hitting a baseball is the hardest thing to do in sports, and the hardest part of the hardest thing is swinging at only strikes and not swinging at everything else. Batters have about 200 milliseconds to decide whether a 100-mile-per-hour fastball is going to be a ball or a strike. Basically, 1/5 of a second. Another Yogiism, you can't hit and think at the same time. Hitting remains a mystery to science. Great athletes don't automatically become great hitters. Lots of great hitters weren't gifted athletes in other sports. Current research suggests that elite hitters have developed very efficient brain structures to recognize pitches. But still, many questions remain. Why is Kyle Tucker one of the best at following Yogi's advice? He has the third lowest chase rate in baseball, and he also hits for incredible power. Same with Juan Soto and Aaron Judge. Salvador Perez, meanwhile, has the worst chase rate in MLB, and yet is still one of the most valuable hitters in the game currently, whose expected WOBA is in the top 3%. He's had his ups and downs throughout his career, surely, but still may very well go down as a Hall of Fame catcher when all is said and done. Baez chases as much as Perez, and yet ranks at the bottom in value as a hitter. What gives? Why can't baseball obey logic? Kevin Biggio, for example, is like Tucker and Soto. He doesn't chase pitches, and yet he isn't anywhere close to these titans at the plate. He's swinging at the strikes, he just can't seem to hit them all that well. Perez is swinging at everything, and yet doing major damage. Javier Baez, for his part, is a walking contradiction. Someone who seemed destined to be among the game's best, but currently is one of its worst. A player with elite bat speed who doesn't strike out much, yet who doesn't hit the ball well enough to even be considered worth a utility man deal, let alone a $140 million mega contract. So, what happened? How did Baez become someone who can't stop swinging at everything a pitcher throws? What's changed an MVP runner-up into an overweighted contractual fraud, in the same category as Patrick Corbin and Anthony Rendon? That's what we're going to try to solve today. But first, a bit of background on our titular character. In February 2011, on a baseball field outside Orlando, probably one of the most talent-filled high school games ever took place. It featured a team from Jacksonville against a team from Lakeland, one led by Javier Baez, the other by future All-Star Francisco Lindor, two shortstops from Puerto Rico whose families had relocated to Florida because family members needed medical care. Over 100 scouts were in attendance. Most were stunned by the performance that Baez put on during BP. Homers everywhere, Lindor recalled. In the draft that June, one of the greatest first rounds in recent history occurred. Garrett Cole went first, Trevor Bauer third, Anthony Rendon 6th, Lindor 8th, Baez 9th, George Springer 11th, the late Jose Fernandez 14th, and Sonny Gray 18th. All went on to become stars to some degree, not the least of which Javier. Baez came out firing in the minors in the Cubs system. At Class A Daytona, Baez clubbed 4 homers in one game. When he got called up in August 2014, he had hit 23 homers and driven in 80 runs in 104 games at AAA. In his first big league game, he homered in the 12th to give the Cubs the victory. But there were some major signs of future trouble in that rookie season. Over his first 52 MLB games, Baez smacked 9 homers, but whiffed 95 times, a stunning K rate of 41.5%. The strikeouts continued into 2015, and the Cubs sent him back down to AAA, and didn't bring him back up again until September call-ups. But after cleaning up some of these swing and miss issues, he managed to crack the big league club heading into 2016, and ended up being instrumental in helping the Cubs win their first World Series since 1908. He was still swinging at everything, mind you, with a chase rate near the bottom of the league while also walking far less than the MLB average. But his main value was on defense, where he ranked near the top of the league in pretty much every category, and in his hard-hitting tendencies. He may have missed on a lot of his hacks, but when he connected, it was almost always quality contact that ensued. Between 2017 and 2021, his chase rate remained near the bottom of the league, either in the first or second percentile, with him swinging and missing as much as any batter in the game over that same span. He again seldom walked and struck out more than an average MLB player in each season, but he, regardless, put up big numbers in both 2018 and 2019, and then again in 2021, in large part because of his elite barrel rate. It was 2016 in a nutshell, just repeated the varying levels of success for the better part of half a decade. After the 2021 season, the Mets, who just acquired him at the deadline, let Baez become a free agent, and he promptly signed a 6-year, $140 million deal with the Tigers, a team seemingly just emerging from rebuild mode. His first season in 2022 has so far been his best for the team, not that it wasn't disappointing in general however, as he posted an OPS plus of just 91, slightly below average for an MLB hitter. All of his other tendencies were on full display. A chase rate of 47.1%, swinging and missing more than a third of the time, often at pitches nowhere close, while not really offering much on the bases either. To his credit, he did hit 17 homers, not horrible for a glove-first middle infielder. Had his expected WOBA in the 35th percentile had him, again, just below an average MLB player. He was certainly a candidate for a bounce back, if he could just tweak a couple aspects of his approach back to what he had displayed in the latter half of 2021, when he put up a .299, .371, .515 slash in 47 games in New York. But, unfortunately, the bottom fell out in 2023. His chase rate and walk rate remained in the league basement, but his once impressive power also completely dried up, leaving him with just 9 homers in 136 games and a .325 slugging percentage. To his credit, he was candid about his struggles. I don't know if it's timing or if I'm just not recognizing the pitch, just trying to do too much, but I go out there and try every day and try again. Nothing's working. The word in the clubhouse seemed to be that he wasn't seeing the ball that well, which for players over 30 is quite concerning. The team had a plan for him that offseason. More check-ins, a hitting coach would visit him, he'd get a new trainer. But so far, it hasn't worked. In 50 games in 2024, Baez is slashing 188, 215, 256 for a dastardly 36 OPS plus, numbers that would make even a mid-2010s Jeff Mathis blush. So, what's going on? Why is the hitter who's still doing what he was doing almost 10 years ago failing at it so spectacularly now? New metrics allow us deeper insight into what his issues may be, starting with his swing length. Baez actually somehow has the longest swing in all of MLB, at 8.6 feet. The average is 7.3 for reference. Only 13 players have swings longer than 8, all of them huge power hitters like Stanton or Judge. Oddly, Baez also swings the bat with a speed in the 92nd percentile at 75.3 miles per hour. Despite this, he's only squared up 61 balls so far this season, compared to, say, Bobby Witt Jr., who swings about as hard as he does but has managed to square up 108. What's more, Baez swings hard as often as anyone in the game. In fact, he's 13th in MLB overall in hard swing percentage, right behind young guns J-Rod and Gunnar Henderson. But Gunner's expected WOBA ranks among the game's best, while Baez sits in the toilet. A look at his swing percentage profile gives a pretty clear picture. Notice that there are some regions where Baez has literally swung at every single pitch he's seen there. For example, the up and in sector, where hurlers locate a firm four-seamer, above the hands, where it's tough for right-handers to barrel it up. What this chart really shows is that Baez's main issue this year hasn't been breaking balls, which he has admittedly still struggled with, but more so fastballs, as further evidenced here by this graph that shows his XBA falling off a cliff both this season and since he's come to Detroit in general. So, if you're keeping score, Baez swings very hard, very often, yet has exactly 1 home run to show for it this season. That's a home run rate of 0.6, 5 times below league average and more than 6 times worse than his career average. The mystery then deepens when we consider Baez's K rate, which was a real issue early on in his career. Scouts in high school debated whether Baez had the mechanics of the plate that would allow him to flourish at the highest level. Despite him hitting .770 as a senior, he had a big leg kick and lots of complicated movement that produced power. And then he did little in the minors to quell these concerns, as though he raked at every level, he also struck out a ton. Even in his best years, he fanned well above the MLB average. It was sink or swim. In 2021, Baez struck out a third of the time, but he also made home runs at a 5.7% clip, almost double the MLB average. The elite bat speed produced big-time pop and big-time whiffs. The result? A 117 OPS plus, 17 points above average. For a glove-first middle infielder, that was solid. These tendencies seem to make sense, right? He swings hard often, among the hardest in the game, while chasing pitches out of the strike zone more than just about every MLB hitter. It seems obvious this would be the recipe for a high rate of Ks. Not so fast. Since he signed in Detroit, he's actually cut his K rate drastically, striking out now at about 1 in 5 ABs, or 19.4%, well below his 27.6% career average. He's indeed making contact, just not hard contact, as his average exit velo currently sits at 88.6 miles per hour, or in the 39th percentile. To further compound the issue, he's simply not taking many swings early. He ranks 179th overall in baseball with 237 competitive swings. On those swings, he's put 109 balls in play, which ranks 127th. The image that emerges of a typical Baez AB is this. Knowing he gets beat on velo, he's reluctant to swing early in the at-bat, which leads to him quickly getting behind in the count on fastballs and get me over breaking balls, which then results in him feeling behind in the count and swinging at everything that follows, including balls out of the zone. His chase rate is still 43.9%, which then results in weak contact, in and out. Not many Ks, almost no walks, no power, and therefore little production. In short, Baez is a broken hitter who's been trying to fit the pieces back together as he goes, akin to attempting to fix a plane while flying it simultaneously, except this plane is losing altitude quickly. Maybe it's already crashed. He currently has a negative 0.7 BWAR, and the Tigers are still on the hook for 3 more years of this. His one consistently elite talent has always been his defense. For many seasons, he was ranked among the best infielders in the game. In 2019, his defensive run value was in the 100th percentile. He saved 31 runs. His defensive abilities were again ranked in the 100th percentile as recently as 2021. But that was then, and this is now. His fielding run value currently puts him in the bottom quarter of the league, and his range has dipped into just the 14th percentile. At the plate, and in the field, Baez is in a free fall. The question is, can the Tigers get Baez to return to the 2021 version of himself as a hitter, or even his 2022 first year in the Old English D levels of production? The fundamentals are still in place. As we've said more than a few times, he swings the bat as hard as almost anyone in the game, but because he swings at trash pitches, he's basically constantly getting himself out. With the Mets in 2021, he hit 290 on balls put in play, partially because he was being more selective at the plate. Though one can't discount the aspect of luck in a stat like this, he also went the other way more often and hit more line drives, while taking many more walks. This is all largely mental, so as such, there's no reason he can't attempt to recapture that approach. Facts are facts. In 2021, he went to right field 11.1% as a Cub, with whom he somewhat struggled, but 21.9% as a Met, who he crushed with. What changed? The best guess is simply his mindset, which seems to be at an all-time low quality as of now. But there's no inherent reason that has to remain the case. So, will Javier Baez ever challenge for an MVP award again? Probably not. Is his career as a hitter over, with zero pathway to redemption? I wouldn't go that far either. He's admitted to being lost and confused at the plate, but this isn't without precedent or comparison. Cody Bellinger couldn't hit water if he fell out of a boat for 2 years following 2020, then he rebounded to a 4.4 WAR last year, en route to a fairly decent contract. Yogi Berra was 100% right in his analysis and what makes a hitter productive: swing at the strikes. Javier Baez needs to rediscover the discipline to do just that, not just to take big hacks when already behind in the count, giving up quality of contact for quantity. In New York, where Berra long resided, he showed that he could. Here's hoping he can find it within himself to do it again, even to a much lesser degree, and save his once promising career from a quick approaching legacy as one of the biggest contractual fails in baseball history. Now, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and if you did, consider liking and subscribing and checking out this playlist for more essay content just like this. Have a great rest of your day, everyone.